What's up, guys and gals? It's Mizuna, and welcome back to another episode of Kerbal Space Program. Today, our very first mission is to launch this rocket into orbit around Kerbin itself. I've designed a small payload using the Airstream AEFFPF Airstream Protective Shell from the procedural fairings, that's what it is. So we are protecting a little satellite here, just a little bit of fuel, some engines, some solar panels, some communication antenna, and, importantly, a parachute. We are intending to bring this rocket home safely. So, let's try to launch this into orbit. What could go wrong, I wonder? We are going to hit F5 here, and if something weird happens, then we're not going to let that stick, because I don't know. Sometimes some weird stuff can happen, especially without an upgraded launch pad. So we are staging, and we have liftoff. So we have a decent amount of thrust to weight here. I believe, yes, okay. I'm just getting acquainted with the controls for my joystick for this flight. 100 meters a second, that's about where I want to be at 1,000 feet. I don't want to go too much faster because we start to lose fuel efficiency from aerodynamic effects. So, this first stage is also going to return safely to Kerbin, hopefully. We will see if that ends up happening. But it should return safely to Kerbin just fine. Now I'm going to start pitching over here, heading for that 45 degrees. I believe at this point, if I just tell my probe core to point to prograde, our gravity turn should be pretty decent. We're currently sitting at 7,000 feet. If we pull up our what do I want? I want my orbit info here from MechJeb. We should see that our apoapsis is rising slowly. We're at 13,000 feet apoapsis now. I'm going to pitch up a little bit because I believe that we may have started this gravity turn a little early. However, this rocket does have spare delta V, which is good. Alright, we are now in the higher portions of the atmosphere, so I am going to throttle up so that we don't waste delta V fighting against Kerbin's gravity. Alright, we are now... Our apoapsis is now at 35 kilometers, 37 kilometers, 42. You can see aerodynamic effects are taking place. I'm throttling down slowly. Stage that. Stage this. Now, this portion of the rocket has a very low thrust-to-weight ratio. Also, apparently, I did not enable the decouple staging from this fairing, so we're just going to have to deal with that for now. We are going to enter space anytime now. Our apoapsis is still going up. The time to apoapsis is actually going down very slowly, which is slightly concerning. We're going to pitch down now towards the equator. We're going to just turn on stability assist, and we are going to roll back so that we have just a slightly better angle here, something that makes more sense to me. So, orbital velocity around Kerbin itself is about 2,300 meters per second. Like I said, we do have enough delta V to make that quite easily. in this rocket. We'll see if we end up making it. Our time to apoapsis is still falling. We're going to try to pitch down, not that much. Whoa there, buddy. There you go. Just pitch down towards the equator there, and just, or towards the horizon rather, and just burn straight towards that horizon. Time to apoapsis is still falling. Our periapsis is coming up. We're at negative 420,000 meters at this point. I think we'll be able to do this. Yes. Yep. And you can see down here our time to reentry is flickering back and forth between 99 and 100 seconds. I believe we've done this at exactly the right time. We have just enough fuel. The fact that this did not decouple worries me. I wonder if I can't... Well, that's okay. A little bit of a staging problem on my part. My mistake. I wasn't quite sure how the mod worked, apparently. Not a big deal. We are getting up to orbital velocity now. Periapsis is climbing quite rapidly. We're going to... Whoa there, buddy. Whoa. Alright. Just pitch down a little bit towards our radial node so that our apoapsis doesn't climb too high. You can see our periapsis is now 50,000, 60,000, 70,000, and we are in orbit. Ladies and gentlemen, we have done it. We are in orbit around Kerbin. We have no control authority because we do not have reaction wheels on this vessel. Alright. Did that stage get recovered? It did, and we recovered 88.4% of the value. So we got back $3,400. Very worth putting those parachutes on there. Very good. World's first. Broken a land distance record, and entered orbit. And now we can get moon probes and Mimnus probes as strategies. That's good stuff. We have plenty of liquid fuel and oxidizer to make the retrograde burn to get us back into the atmosphere. Now we just need this to stay in orbit for 40 minutes. So you can also see that I have 2 other contracts accepted here. First off is investigate the island airfield, which, if you don't know, is an airfield just on an island just off the coast of the KSC. So that should be easy enough to do. I want to build a plane, as I've said before. I want to build a science plane to gather up some data for us, and this will be an excellent place to go. And then investigate structures in Kerbin's desert. So we're going to go out and find both of these things with one of our intrepid explorers. Probably Jebediah will be piloting that plane, and that will be our second mission for today's episode. So I am now going to time accelerate a little bit, wait until that 40 minutes passes. Now, I'm expecting that we do not lose control of this vessel because we will be in range of the KSC at all times, because this is an omnidirectional antenna, and those can apparently pierce through the surface of Kerbin itself, which is a little bit interesting. Now, when we do deorbit this vessel, we want to deorbit in such a way that we come back into contact. We land around the KSC, and we will try our hardest to do that. As you can see, we are in a slightly inclined orbit here, actually. So that's a little bit... That may or may not be a problem. Alright, so contract complete. Orbit around Kerbin, 45,000 credits, a little bit of science, and a ton of reputation, which is very good. We can also grab massive scale launches, pilot focus 1, engineer focus 1, and scientist focus 1. Very cool stuff. So I'm actually going to leave this guy in orbit for the time being. We're going to check out where it is in relation to the KSC. KSC is here, so that's very good. Oh, that's why we have extra ground stations, and that's why we're not losing contact. That's good to know. Good to know. Also, the pyramids that we need to check out are over there, for the record. So, Now we're going to go back to the Space Center. We're going to see if there is a contract for the recovery of a vessel in orbit. There usually is an orbit and recovery contract, and I hope that we can accomplish that with this same vessel. I am also going to quick save here, because you never know, that's the wrong building. It's fine. SETI contracts, orbit and recovery. Vessel, any vessel state, destination Kerbin, situation orbit, and then we just need to land it. So we're going to accept that contract. Very, very easy to do, because obviously we have a vessel already in orbit that is destined to be recovered, which is perfect. So let's just go you, fly you, and then we do not have the ability to make a maneuver node or anything, so I'm just going to have to burn retrograde around the time that we are over the KSC. I'm going to time accelerate here. You'll see the orbiter come all the way around, and you can see our electric charge is staying topped off because of those solar panels. Good stuff. And then I'm just going to start my burn around about here. We're going to burn retrograde. And it looks like, because of the rotation of our vessel, that we'll be facing almost the right direction when we make that burn. Very, very good. Okay. So, here seems about right. We are going to throttle up a little bit. Give us some control authority back. Check out our apoapsis and periapsis here. We can even look at this from the map view. And we are now re-entering Kerbin's atmosphere. Now, what we want to do is just guesstimate where we're going to land after re-entry. I believe if we just... Our re-entry is now in 50 seconds. That time is dropping quite rapidly. I think we're going to want to go full burn. We have a good amount of fuel left. I might leave just a little bit in the tank. If we put this about here, then we should land almost on the KSC. We might just burn all of our fuel here, actually. No, that's about perfect. Now, aero effects should do the rest and put us approximately over the KSC, which is where we want to be. So now go back to the map view, or go back from the map view, rather. We can collect a little bit of science anyway. I didn't pack a science payload on this vessel. I didn't feel that it was strictly necessary. So these city lights from enhanced visuals, I'm not sure I like them, because obviously when you actually fly over these areas, there are no roads and there are no cities. So I might be disabling those. Alright, now, we are set up to point retrograde, although we will see what our vessel actually wants to do here. I don't want to time warp because we've had some problems with it before, or I have had many problems with it before. That's just the way that it goes. We are lowering our periapsis slowly, although we haven't actually hit the main part of the atmosphere as of yet. If I just click on this, we can toggle this info and look at our altitude and deployment altitude. I'm going to raise up that deployment altitude to about 1 kilometer, just because I'm not quite sure. I mean, we should be arriving at basically sea level. So there's the KSC. Here, by the way, is the island airfield, which is where we're going in our second mission of the day. Okay, so now aero effects are beginning to take over. We're going to give a little bit of control authority to our probe here to see if we can't flip it around. No. Okay, that's fine. We should be entering at a slow enough speed, even though this is entering the wrong direction, that we should be able to deploy our parachutes safely, crossing our fingers that that is the case. We're not dropping speed nearly as quickly as I would like. We are 20,000 meters above sea level now, 1,300 meters per second, 1,200 meters per second, 1,100 meters per second. Aero effects are decreasing, 900. I believe our parachute will be able to activate very shortly. Okay. Okay, parachute deployment too high. We should be deploying at 3,000 meters. Hopefully it deploys. Okay, parachute is deployed. We brought landing gear just in case we deploy over the ground, but obviously that did not happen. We're swinging a little bit wildly here, but that's okay. We have no control because now we are out of range of the antenna, apparently. Parachute is open, and our surface speed is now 4.4 meters per second, which is much less than we need it to be. So, now we can just physics warp down to the ground, and we will complete another contract, recover a vessel that was once in orbit around Kerbin, and we'll get our money back for this probe as well, which is a really good situation to be in. Just waiting for it to splash down. Even at 4 times speed, this takes a long time. I could have probably left my parachute alone to open at 700 meters rather than 1 kilometer, but I don't really trust it to do it on its own. I don't know. I've been burned one too many times before by the parachutes in this game. They don't seem to want to open high enough. Well, that was really loud. I'll have to edit that in post for sure. That was a really, really loud splashdown. Not sure why. 27,000 credits for orbit and recovery, 6 more science, and 14 more reputation. And also, world's first, 5,400 credits for the recovery of an object that was in orbit. Good stuff, good stuff. We can now recover this vessel. And now it's time for me to make a cut and design a plane. I want it to load first, though. Perfect. Alright, we have 219 science now, which is more than we really need. 217,000 credits, which is important because I want to upgrade our R&D center to get the next level of parts. We've recovered all of this stuff. I believe that's all good. Okay, so I'll see you in a moment when I've designed a plane. We are going to warp to the next moment because flying in the dark, not something I'm really into. See you in just a minute. Alright, and we're back, and we have our first ever plane. It's very stable, it flies very well, I've done some testing, and it's also half rover. I can enable these wheels and drive around with it if I desire. We have a probe core on there so that I have the ability to perform all science and collect all science from this window right here, which is very nice. We have Bob Kerbin with us, giving us an additional 5% of our science data. So, we are going to engage the engines, we are going to disengage the brakes, and we are going to throttle up. Our first destination, the island Airfield, which you can see in the top right corner of our screen, actually. Now, I'm going to try and keep it on the runway. This Tier 1 runway is actually very, very poor. Taking off from the grass is more stable. But, alright, we have liftoff. Fantastic. So, as I said before, this plane is very, very stable. In fact, I can just leave it just like this, and it'll do its own thing. So, we can perform all science and collect all that data. And obviously, some of this science will be repeated from previous experimentation that we've done with different craft. I am going to close that science here in that window because I believe it's causing that little bit of a hiccup every time we pass a new biome. You can see, I have my MechJeb surface info pulled up so that we can see our true altitude above the ground as well. It's a nice thing to have. But now we can just reduce the thrust to a minimum level and fly our way over to the island airfield. As I said before, this plane is actually quite stable. It's pretty easy to fly. It flies really, really well. So, our wheels are currently disabled. I have them set up as a custom action group. I can enable and disable them when I see fit. Similarly, if I want to kill the engines, I have that capability. So, we're going to see if we can come in for a landing on the airfield over there. Once again, if you're playing this game and you have a little bit of spare change, I highly recommend you grab a joystick for it because it's just so nice. It makes things like flying planes feel much better. I also feel like it makes it a lot easier because you have analog control, so I can make much smoother corrections. And instead, for instance, this is a pull-up with the joystick, you can see. And this is what it looks like when I try and pull up normally. And because I have precision controls turned on, you can see the bottom left, those dials are all blue instead of red like they normally are. We have a little bit of, it's a little bit less dramatic than normal, but still, I think it's really worth the investment if you play this game and a lot of other games. I kind of need this up to be able to tell me when we have science, actually, even though it is a little bit laggy. I just don't want to have to guess when I've entered a new biome. So it seems that is causing a little bit of a stutter every time we enter a new situation, but that's fine. We have a lot of electricity on board to power our probe core. This is a scaled up Z800. It has 6,400 energy, so that's not going to run out anytime soon. And now all we have to do is make our way over there. As I said, land, collect our contract, and then we're going to make our way over to the desert as well. I will land at the airfield, and I think we will cut the episode there, and I'll do a little bit more exploration on my own between episodes, just finishing up some contracts, because this episode is reaching the appropriate length to say goodbye, and I think this will be an excellent place to sign off with Bob Kerbin. Let's engage our thrusters all the way to get ourselves over there a little bit faster. We are currently traveling at 125 meters per second, and that number is increasing. 125 meters per second if you want to convert that to kilometers per hour. That is quite quick. I believe that's something on the order of 300 kilometers per hour, which would be 180 miles per hour. I believe I am doing my math more or less correctly there, because it would be 150 times 60 times 60 divided by 1,000. So, I don't know. It's been a long time since I've had to do math like that in my head. Also, you'll notice that we do have decent yaw control with this plane. I can make corrections left and right, which not super realistic. That's not how aircraft fly. Although with very stable aircraft designs, I do believe that it is possible to have a little bit of yaw control. Obviously, yaw control is more useful for landing and takeoff than anything else in the real world, but still. Alright, now, we are going to bleed off some speed here because we are approaching our target quite quick. So I'm going to do some purposeful stalls here just to bleed off some of our airspeed. 50 meters per second is a much more reasonable number. You don't want to come into these landings too fast, especially on kind of not ideal landing surfaces. If you are landing on the KSC runway and it is upgraded, you can actually come in quite quickly and you should be okay. But landing on something like this, alright, what's our altitude? 150 meters above the ground. Alright, we saw a little bit of a... I think MechJeb might have this wrong, actually. Alright, so now we're just going to try and touch down here. We are using a little bit of that yaw control I was just talking about, and we have touchdown. Braking. And yeah, we're landed safely. Look at that. Now I can disengage my engines and toggle the brakes group, and we are safely on the ground. So now I can perform all science here, collect all of that data, reset those experiments, and then we can EVA with Bob Kerbin, take our EVA report, and then all we have to do is let go, and we can climb off of our plane. So now it'll just sit there doing its own thing, and we will walk over to our two destinations here. We need to observe the pod in the hangar. Do we have the ability to plant a flag yet? No. No, we do not. But that's okay. Alright, I'll be right back, plane. You just stay there. Can we physics warp this? Yes, we can. Excellent. So we need to crawl to the top of the control tower, and we also need to check out the burnt out pod in the hangar for this contract. Very cool. Just gonna waddle over there. Our boy Bob Kerbin taking the long walk. I suppose we could have driven because I do have wheels on the plane. It is a rover as well as a science plane, but that's okay. Just heading over there. How close do I have to be? Quite close, apparently, is the answer to that question. Never forget those that gave their lives to get us where we are. That's kind of nice and morbid for this game. Also, his picture wasn't there, which is interesting. Good work. I think that's a, I think this is a mod, though. This is the anomaly contract pack for contract configurators, so it could be a mod issue, or it could be the fact that I am speeding along at 4 times physics warp. Now, there is a ladder, I assume, or do I have to walk up the stairs? It looks like this is going to be a stairs thing. Alright, here we go. Up the stairs we go. Oh. Oh. Oh my gosh. Oh, okay. Alright, I think we can put this back to normal 1 times physics warp, or maybe 2 times will be a little bit more reasonable for what we're up to right now. We do need to get all the way up to the top of this tower to fulfill this contract, and then that's where we're going to sign off for this episode. How many floors? A lot. We're apparently 0 meters above the ground. I'm not sure that's true. Also, you know, we do have a parachute. I'm interested in maybe jumping off this tower to get down. That might be fun. Think that's a terrible idea? Is it high enough up that it won't kill us? It's like base jumping, right? I'll save first. I'll quick save first. For science. We have to do it for science. And see if I can't just glide over to my plane. It'll be a good way to end the episode. My gosh, this thing is much taller than it appears. Okay, we we don't need this anymore. Great view. Maybe we should start launching from here. Is that it? Contract complete? Contract complete. All right. Excellent. And it looks like they discourage jumping out of the control tower. I bet you we can do it from right here. Yep, looks like we can. All right, I'm going to quick save. I'm going to check out my... Here we go. Jump! Oh. Okay, well, we didn't die. So that's good enough for me. Guys, I hope you've enjoyed this episode. I know it was a little bit of a rambly one. Next episode, we will be taking a Kerbal into orbit around Kerbin and setting up the first of our communications relay network. Until then, I hope you have an excellent rest of your day. Thank you so much for spending your time with me, and I hope I see you next time. As always, this is Mizuna, signing off.